Hello and welcome to this information session about our Service Learning in Guatemala Study Abroad program taking place in March 2019. My name is Erin Kehoe. I am the Study Abroad Coordinator here on campus, and I'm excited to share some information about the program with you here today. So to give you an idea of what I plan to discuss, I will start by talking about our partner with this program, Mercado Global. I'll talk a bit about the program itinerary, the financial side of things, a little bit about health and safety abroad, what the application requirements and process look like. And then of course it says time for questions there at the end, but since you'll be watching this asynchronously from when I'm recording it, if you do have any questions, you'll get my contact information at the end of the presentation so that you can feel free, of course, to send me an email and we can either converse by email, phone, or in person. So without further ado, who or what is Mercado Global? So Mercado is a not-for-profit organization that's based in Brooklyn and in Guatemala. They work with female artisans in Guatemala to produce handbags and other goods that they then sell on the international market. So Mercado has a strong presence in Guatemala. They have an office and staff based there, including production staff, design staff, marketing and sales staff, as well as in Brooklyn. And they work really closely with several different groups of women artisans in producing their goods, and then also in providing service to those same groups of women. So they have health education-based services. They have services about to help with financial literacy. They also provide things like microloans so that women can purchase their own supplies and goods so that they can produce products in their own time when they're not working with Mercado. So they're really a pretty awesome organization, and they're a really good example of how an organization within the fashion industry can really truly be a force for good in the world. Not only are they producing beautiful products that they're selling in big department stores in New York, in London, in other countries around the world, but they're also having a really strong impact on individual women as well as their families and their communities down in Guatemala. So it's really neat to be able to work on this program with them, and I think it's something that makes this program pretty special. So now onto the program itself. This is a short-term study abroad program. It is a total of 8 days and 7 nights long, including travel. Because it's one of our short-term programs, we travel as a group. The group is accompanied by an LIM faculty member, and the majority of this particular program is based in Panajachel, which is a small town on Lake Atitlan in Guatemala, and you can see that beautiful photo down below of what Lake Atitlan looks like. So even before our group departs the United States, there will be some pre-departure activities. If you are an undergraduate student, you can earn 3 elective credits for completing this program. The reason that we associate a course with our study abroad programs is for a few reasons. One is, of course, all of our study abroad programs are educational experiences, and so having that formal course piece in place helps us ensure that all of our participants are getting the most out of the experience possible. It also means that before you even travel to Guatemala, you'll have some background in the country's history and culture, as well as models of not-for-profit work within the fashion industry. So that will give you a really good background. You won't be sort of traveling blind, and that also helps students really make the most of their experience. So again, that's 3 elective credits. It's a course that begins online prior to your departure and really culminates in your time abroad. We will also have meetings. So our group will meet together and we'll start talking about a presentation that the group will give to the Mercado Global staff and some of their partner artisans while the group is in Guatemala. One of the reasons why I think this program is really neat is that it gives you as a fashion student living in New York City the chance to share your expertise with individuals that are based in a completely different setting, but who are also operating within the same industry. So you have knowledge, you have experiences that are really valuable, and that you can share with Mercado and their partner artisans, and that can actually have a really practical impact on the work that they do. So that's something that we would start talking about before the group travels. We also would ask student participants to help with Mercado trunk shows before departure. This is a way for our participants to become familiar with the organization, the work that they do, especially here on the New York side of things. So when you do go down to Guatemala, you already have a good understanding of what that looks like on the New York end. And then finally, we have a required pre-departure orientation where we'll discuss things like health and safety overseas, packing tips, money, food, electronics, all of that good stuff. Now, the actual program will begin on March 10th. So we will meet as a group and depart from a New York City area airport. We will arrive in Guatemala on the same day and spend one night at a hotel near the airport, so we don't have to travel far. And then on March 11th, we will have a welcome day in the city of Antigua. Antigua is a relatively close drive from the airport in Guatemala City. It's a beautiful colonial city, and we typically have a walking tour in Antigua that provides a little bit more background and history on both the city and the country as a whole. The day after that, we will travel up to Panajachel. We will spend March 12th, 13th, 14th, and 15th there, learning about Mercado Global's model, meeting their production and design teams. We'll also have the chance to observe local artisans, see how they work, learn more about their own history, how they became involved with Mercado, and what their role is in the organization's function. We'll also have some visits to local towns and communities around Lake Atitlan, so we'll have the chance to travel a little bit outside of Panajachel on a couple of occasions. And then finally, we'll have that presentation to Mercado staff and some of their partner artisans. Then on March 16th, our group will depart Panajachel. We'll spend a night at a hotel outside the airport, and then on March 17th, we will return to the US. The total cost for the program for this coming year is $3,500. That includes round-trip airfare from New York to Guatemala, all in-country transportation, housing at local hotels for the duration of the program, cultural and business visits, almost all meals, with the exception of 2 dinners and 1 breakfast, and 3 credits of tuition. So it's a very comprehensive program fee. I traveled with this program myself last year, and I really ended up spending almost nothing outside of the program fee, with the exception of souvenirs, which are also really affordable. There is a payment plan in place for the program, so you're not required to put that entire program cost down up front, and the payment plan dates and amounts are listed on the application form, which you can find on the website, and I'll talk a bit more about that in a second. You may be able to apply federal, state, and or institutional aid that you receive towards this program. You should speak with a student financial services counselor to talk about your aid package, because they'll be able to look at what you actually get in aid and to see how that can apply towards the expenses of the program. There are some additional costs to consider on top of the program fee. If you don't yet have a passport, you will need to get one. The good news is that we do not need to apply for visas to go to Guatemala for this length of time, so that's not an expense that you'll have. I also require that all students be covered by international health insurance. If your current plan doesn't cover you abroad, you need to acquire health insurance. For a program of this duration, that's usually about $15. And again, as far as food goes, you'd be responsible for 3 meals. All the others are included in your program fee, and then any shopping that you'd like to do. And I do have estimates listed for what I think you'll spend in each of these categories on the college website. As far as health and safety goes, this is of course something that's a central concern whenever I'm planning any study abroad program. It's something that we put a lot of time and energy into. And we've picked the program locations, Antigua and Panajachel, with the safety and security of our students in mind. So they've been vetted by LIM College here on our end. They've also been vetted by, of course, our partner, Mercado in Guatemala. We purposely are avoiding more risky parts of Guatemala, such as Guatemala City and the border with Mexico, where there's a higher rate of crime. Again, speaking from personal experience, having been in Antigua and Panajachel this past January, they're both quite safe feeling places. They're also relatively heavily touched by tourism, so I think the local people there are used to seeing tourists, and they actually prize tourists coming to the country because they're an economic resource. So at no point did I feel any more unsafe in either Antigua or Panajachel than I would walking down Fifth Avenue in New York. Again, just to emphasize that this close partnership that we do have with Mercado Global means that we have access to expert resources, both in the planning of our program and should there be an emergency while our group is abroad, where they're there to help us if we need it, whether that's a medical issue that arises, a safety or security issue that arises. We have strong partners in country. And then finally, we also have several other measures in place to make sure that our group stays safe. One, like I mentioned, is to require that all students have health insurance for the duration of their time abroad. The college also partners with a third-party company called International SOS, which is, they're a travel risk management company. It's the services they provide are health and safety resources that can assist you both before you travel and while you're abroad. So you'll get, if you're accepted to the program, you'll get a membership card free of charge for International SOS, and all of the resources that they offer will be available to you. Our faculty leaders are also specifically trained on emergency scenarios and processes prior to departures. They're well versed in that area. And finally, again, at the mandatory pre-departure orientation, all students will learn about safety and security overseas, best practices for staying safe while traveling, so that all of our travelers are well prepared. The requirements to go abroad are pretty straightforward. So you do need to be in good academic and financial standing. That means that you do not have any academic or financial holds in your SONUS account. You've kept your grades up. You don't owe any outstanding debts to the college. The GPA requirement is a 2.5 minimum. If you're a first semester student, you of course might not yet have an LIM GPA. That is totally fine. What I will do is reach out to some of your current professors to get feedback on your academic performance so far, and that will sort of serve as a substitute for this GPA requirement. You do need to be matriculated at LIM for at least one semester before the start date of the program. So, if you're a current student this semester, you meet that requirement. The deadline for this program is Monday, October 1st. The application form is available on the website. Just make sure that when you go into the website to download the application form, you're completing the undergraduate application. There's also a graduate application that you'll see. So you just want to make sure that you have the correct one. And please submit your application by email to studyabroad@limcollege.edu along with the supporting documents that I asked for as part of the application. And you'll also submit an initial deposit of $375 to the Student Financial Services Office. So you can either do that in person by cash or check. Their offices are located at the townhouse on the 3rd floor, or you can make a payment online. And if you aren't quite sure how to make an online payment, please feel free to send me an email. I can send you the link in the instructions. So when you do submit your application, you will be submitting the application form that you download from the website. I ask you to write a short essay, and the instructions on what I'm looking for in the essay are also on the application, as well as a short interview, which is something that I schedule following the application deadline. So again, you'll submit the application form, essay, you'll do the interview, and then you'll have that initial deposit of $375. If you're accepted to the program, that $375 will go towards your program fee. If you are not accepted to the program, you'll get that money refunded to you. As with any of our programs, we do have limited spots available. With this program in particular, we limit the number of students so as not to overwhelm some of the smaller places and communities that we visit while we're there. So it is really true that there are limited spots available. And when I'm looking at each applicant, I look at the quality of the essay that you write, the professionalism of the interview that you do, and then again, either your GPA or feedback from your professors. So this is what our website looks like. If you haven't been there, we recently got a great makeover. You can find it really easily just by Googling LIM College Study Abroad, or the first result that comes up. You can also go to the LIM College main page and then use that search feature to find our study abroad page specifically. If you scroll down a little bit, you'll see that there's a box for Guatemala. If you click on that, you'll see a little bit more detailed information than what I've talked about today, as well as the application form. So I like to wrap up by sort of talking about why even bother going abroad. I've now spent quite a bit of time speaking about the academic component, the financial component, the application process, and I definitely recognize that study abroad is something that demands resources from you. So it requires your time, your energy, your attention, your money. So it's really important to think about what you'll get out of it and why you want to participate. So for this particular program, it really is a strong experience for your resume, especially if you are a student that's interested in things like corporate social responsibility, sustainability within the fashion industry, social justice, topics like that. Having a study abroad experience on your resume that shows that you went to another country and worked really closely with an organization that has those same goals as their main mission is something that's really pretty special. On a related note, it does give you the chance to make connections with a respected not-for-profit organization. So we've had multiple instances of students who've traveled with this program later getting internships with Mercado Global, or potentially being able to use some of the connections with people that they meet at Mercado as great components of their networks down the road. It's of course a chance to experience a new country and culture. Before my time in Guatemala earlier this year, I had never traveled to that country before, and it was an awesome experience. I loved getting to learn more about the history and culture of the country, getting to meet people from diverse groups and backgrounds and languages and experiences, and just getting to learn more about what life is like in Guatemala, especially in the Panajachel area. And then finally, I really think any travel is a chance to become more independent, especially travel to a place like Guatemala, which is a little bit less frequently visited by Americans than, say, Western Europe. There's something that it's something that makes you a more independent person, maybe somebody who's more willing to take risks down the road, or kind of find their own path down the road. And in addition, you're doing that with a great group of fellow travelers. So we often, on programs like this, and in this past year's program, we had undergraduate students, graduate students, students who attend classes in person here on campus, online students. So it really was a pretty neat way for the participants to get to know people that they might not really have had the chance to meet beforehand, and to really share some pretty special experiences together. So, as promised, here is my contact information. You can always reach out to me at erin.kehoe@limcollege.edu. Just note that there are two N's on Erin. And you can also reach out to me at studyabroad@limcollege.edu if that's easier as well. So if you do have any questions, please don't hesitate to write me an email. Again, I'm happy to help, whether it's by email, by setting up a time to speak by phone, or in person. And I hope that you found the information in this presentation useful. I love speaking about my experiences in Guatemala, and I hope that you will consider applying. Thanks so much, and I look forward to reviewing your application soon.